Hey everybody, welcome to the Foundation First Fitness Show with Bobak Owen. Today we are going to talk about two different topics. Normally we go over kind of one here, but I wanted to maybe try to mesh in a second one. They're going to be somewhat closely related, so it's not going to be like they're two completely separate topics, but they still are, but they have some relationship. So the first topic is bodyweight training or calisthenics. So basically the push-ups, the pull-ups. Now, before I get into it, I wanted to go over some of the pushback that I generally hear when I talk about these styles of training. The first one is you can't gain a tremendous amount of muscle. Now, I understand where that comes from, and I know that when we talk about building muscle, we're talking about volume and load. So yes, it is not as easy to overload the muscle because it requires a significant amount of skill and control, but when you do have that skill and control, when you attain it, it actually is pretty substantially easy to start adding some extra resistance. There's some variables we can play with. We can overload it by, reducing the amount of arms or the amount of legs that are working at that same time. We can increase the time that our body's under tension. There's mixing and pairing them up. So we're going back to back to back to back. So we're kind of loading it up in different ways. So there are different ways we can kind of hit those same muscle groups and actually create some muscle growth. There's actually a substantially high number of individuals who have gone on this and started doing the bodyweight stuff and have experienced tremendous benefits from it, and especially in terms of muscle size. So now that we've kind of clarified that, the next thing that's really interesting is that we generally, when we talk about bodyweight training, and again, the only reason why I bring these up is because I can easily understand where they're coming from. The next one that generally comes up, or that more often than not I'll hear, is it's kind of difficult to give a full workout on body weight when someone's just starting off at the gym. The reason for that is because unless you hit those benchmarks, unless you get that squat and lunge are pretty close, but squat and lunge, push up, pull up, it's very hard to start adding a bunch of different things on, especially when you don't have much equipment at your disposal, right? So yes, I understand where they're coming from. It is a little less practical, but if you look at things from the way I do and the way we generally talk about it on this show, is foundation comes first. So if you build that foundation and you do it the way I generally talk, is making sure that your body's moving properly at the beginning, then slowly and progressively adding resistance, you will get to those benchmarks before you know it. And once you do get to those benchmarks, that's where it can become very interesting. Messing around with time under tension, all that stuff, loads and volume and then it becomes really interesting. But I can understand where many individuals will discuss the impracticality of it, and at the same time the lack of muscle growth. But again, I think that there's still a lot that can be discussed about those two kind of pushbacks and those kind of two downsides to it. But again, I'm going to jump over and start talking about some of the benefits of it. Now, one of the major benefits that I always notice is you gain a lot of core control. You gain a lot of control of your body. So you get that stability, hip control, and everything that I really love, that I always talk about. And it's something that I noticed when I was doing it for this last month. So I spent about a month just doing pure body weight exercises, pure calisthenics, just to see what I would get from it. And the results were unreal. I felt so much more stable in the core. I felt like my shoulders were getting more stable. I felt like my posture was picking up. This episode, posture aside, hips were getting more stable. And for those of you who know me, like, stability and core control is like my claim to fame. So for me to really say that I got a little better at that is actually pretty impressive. So did it for a month, felt really good, gained a lot of core control, gained a lot of that body weight control. The other thing is I actually felt like I got a little bit leaner, not so much skinnier, but I meant leaner. Like I started losing a bit of body fat. Yes, this may have been to my significantly healthier style of eating, but at the same time, there is something that comes along with body weight training. There's some like primitive wiring that causes you to think that as you're doing a pull-up or as you're doing a push-up, it's survival. So your body tries shedding useless weight that it doesn't need. and tries just getting rid of that extra fat so that your body can use pure muscle to lift you. That's why a lot of those gymnasts are so lean. They're constantly lifting their body weight. They're constantly teaching it. So that's where that philosophy comes from. So aside from the core control and the core control stability, as well as the body weight stuff, it was really interesting for me to start realizing how practical it was to do, exercises here. Stop for 10 minutes, do a bunch of push-ups, be at home, not have to worry about equipment, be anywhere else and not have to worry about equipment, be at the hotel, whatever. It's a lot easier for me to bang those workouts out and never have to worry about equipment or being, having some setbacks or some restrictions. So that was another great thing. Now bodyweight training ties into the second topic a little bit, actually quite a bit, because I wanted to discuss core training. Now, core training has been one of the huge topics I've been discussing in recent months, weeks and months. And the reason for that is because it's something that I spend a lot of time paying attention to. And the reason I spend so much time paying attention to it is because I think it's so valuable. So today I didn't want to go over the structure that I use. I will keep that for later episodes so you can maybe check that out. But I wanted to get into that, that five exercises that five exercises that I think are the best ones that I love to use on a regular basis and why I use them so often. And, I would love for you guys to try those out. Tell me what you think. If you haven't tried them already, I'd be pretty shocked, but they're very basic exercises, but I love messing around with them. They're always been there. They're always in my programs. The first one is the rollout. So basically getting into a plank position, forearms on the ball, in a nice plank position, stabilizing that, and just reaching and rolling out. The reason I love that is that if you pay attention to the athletes that I work with, hockey players, shoulder issues is huge for them. So I try to always get that extra bit of shoulder exercises. Whenever I can squeeze in a little bit more shoulders, I will. Without overexhausting them and killing them, I'll try to get that little bit extra shoulder work in. So love that. Interior core strength, it's great. And the other thing is that it works on getting the arm to move while the rest of the body stays stable. So I love that about it. It's also one of the easier, more beginner exercises. It's not completely beginner, but it's closer to the beginning of exercises that I would give. So I love using that. It's one of my go-to ones. Secondly, is not just the plank, side plank stuff, but it's very much a transitional component between these exercises. So what I like doing is I like staying on one plank, on the side plank, and then controlling my entire body and rolling it to the center to plank, and then rolling it back out to the side to do another side plank on the other side, and coming back and basically just rolling back and forth between those positions. Stuart McGill, who's an excellent back specialist, probably the world's back specialist, big time core guy. I saw that and I was like, wow, that's something I got to throw in my workouts. Started doing it. It has not let me down since. Love that exercise. Great way to turn basic exercises into like fundamental core strength. Love it. Use it all the time. Probably will always be in my workouts from now on. So love it. Third exercise, three-point plank. So basically starting to push a position, reach across, tap your shoulder, put your hand back, or just reach out. Doing it nice and slowly. Love that exercise for a few reasons. One, I love the fact that it's anterior core stability. Great. Two, I love the fact that there's shoulder stability, because once I lift my arm off, this shoulder has to go nuts. The other thing is that I love the fact that it introduces weight shift, which is huge for athletes. Weight shift is tremendous. Finally, it adds in some rotational component, because once my hand comes off, my body's going to want to fall, and I got to resist it but not open up and fall off to the side. So putting all that together adds a lot of different components to that core exercise, which makes it one of my favorites. Number 4, the bear crawl. The bear crawl is not entirely just a core exercise, but I use it a lot in my activations. And the reason I use it in my activations is because it incorporates the entire body. So you're basically having to keep your body flat, stable, drive the legs, drive the arms, keep everything nice and stable. So once you're doing that and kind of transferring your body weight and coordinating the limbs and the arms, you just get a full body activation out of it. I love it. I use it all the time. It's in like all of my warm-ups with my guys. Works wonders on the activation, especially on the shoulder stuff. And again, hockey players, you know. So that leads me to number 5. Now, number 5 is by a physiotherapist. I believe his name is Richard Paloff. I should remember this because I met the guy. But great physiotherapist, and just brilliant stuff when he came up with this Paloff press. So basically, it's an anti-rotation exercise. Pull the elastic from the side, press it out in front of you, and resist that rotation. Stop yourself from falling back to the other side. The reason that's such a great exercise is when you deal with rotational athletes, anti-rotation, being able to resist that rotation is actually really important because it's preventing that overbearing rotation. It's actually progressing us into it. So it's teaching us how to lock the hips in, lock everything else in, lock the shoulders in, then apply the resistance, pull it away, reintroduce it, pull it back, reintroduce it, take it away. Constantly going through that cycle actually teaches your body how to move in and out from rotational resistance, especially when you're standing, because it's very difficult to add that in, because when you start standing, now you're introducing so much more into that movement. You're introducing that hip stability, the knee stability, the ankle stability, and doing all that together with that rotational stability is great. It's also one of the ones I use to lead into other exercises, so it's always in my workouts. So any of you who've worked out with me or seen my stuff know that Paloff press is always in there. So if you guys have any questions about any of the exercises or bodyweight training, want to learn more about it, leave a comment, send me an email if you want to. If you haven't subscribed already, subscribe. For those of you listening on the podcast, hit like. Thank you guys for paying attention. Thank you guys for listening to my stuff. I can't wait to talk to you guys again. And until the next time, guys, keep building that foundation.